Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 845th meeting of the Transport and Infrastructure Committee. I'd like to welcome all committee members and guest, Councillor Martin. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll get underway. We have no apologies, so no leave of absence. Confirmation of minutes. Would someone like to move the confirmation of minutes? Councillor Tozer moved. Seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Motion put to the floor. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Today we have three items. 5.1, Infrastructure Gold Coast Forward schedule as start. We have a presentation 6.1 and 7.1. Will anyone have any questions for 7.1? Yeah, not a problem. Any questions for 7.1? So just asking, do we want to start it? Happy to start it? Any questions? No? I'm happy to start it, so we'll start 7.1. We'll unstar 5.1. So we'll move through it. We'll start off with 5.1. You had some questions.
Good afternoon, Chair. Yes, just in regard next committee, I note there's a report to come on a petition that was raised for Mystery Road, Guanaba, and I'm requesting that that might be the first item we deal with, please.
In the next first council
the next
meeting,
committee,
come
if that's
forward.
possible.
I can't see that be a problem, but no problems at all. Thank you. Any other questions for the forward scheduling? Move Councillor Tozer. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Young. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. That's 5.1. We will go to 6.1. We'll do the presentation first and then we'll come to 7.1. So, Nick, thank you very much. This is the Northern Gold Coast Transport Network Planning. Over the next few months, we're going to be getting a bit of a high level of each of the different areas of our transport network and what major projects are coming on board from state projects and how that interlinks with what local roads do and where our priorities lie. So I'll hand over to Nick. Thank you.
Through the Chair, just before Nick kicks off, I just wanted to give a bit more overview and context on the why behind this presentation. The Chairman's given you some context, but effectively we've got 5 regions that we've defined across our transport network. The intention is to provide a presentation on each of those 5 areas over the next few months. What that will do will set a good foundational knowledge for all councillors on some of the critical issues in our current 10-year program and some of the major projects. We'll be looking at state and city road networks. We'll be looking at public transportation, active transport and our own road projects. It will be critical that we have that foundational understanding before we go into developing our new transport strategy. So that strategy will also commence later this year we'll be presenting, I guess, our approach to that transport strategy. When we start to go out to 2046, when we're looking at the new planning scheme, there are some real critical challenges that we'll need to address in the network, and we will need to lean into those as a council and officers. It will be very important that we maintain a very strong relationship with DTMR and TransLink to bring not only the outcomes over this next 10-year horizon, but that longer-term strategy. So at officer level, through a political and advocacy level, we are very much one network. So we cannot look at the city network in isolation, obviously without the state roads, and obviously the public transport, active transport is a very important shared goal between state and local government. So today will be the first of the 5 presentations. We hope to get some good feedback and conversation on each of the regions, and I'll hand over to Nick to walk us through.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for everyone attending today. As the slide shows, we've got 5 of these presentations coming up to cover the whole city. It is a summary only, so given time constraints, we can't include everything. Really, these initiatives will really deal with new and growth type of projects. We do have a significant investment in our asset management as well. Particularly in this area, we have quite a significant uplift in road pavement rehabilitation. We've recently done a new bridge as well, but this really is focusing on the new and growth. And as Michael suggested, it does include some state initiatives. We have to do this together in partnership. The state are the big players in transport. They have the larger roads and the interchanges, but they also are responsible for public transport, but they also do the road rules, compliance with the police. They set regulatory frameworks in terms of heavy vehicle access, with Uber and taxis, e-scooters, everything. So they are a big player in the our transport future for the city, and we have to work in partnership and advocate to TMR as part of that. So where transport sits, obviously, in terms of the council plan, connected communities is the first thing that comes to mind. But it's more than that. Transport does touch on all the themes of the council plan. You know, transport does have a big impact on our economy. It also has an impact on our vibrant lifestyle, people accessing places and leisure activities. It has a big impact on Naturally Unique in terms of access as well as emissions. And livable places obviously has a big impact on that. And the last one as well, one city, as Michael touched on before, that could be called one network, where we have to work with the state to get to to achieve our strategic objectives. So obviously, a lot of these projects come from a lot of different sources. We've got our transport strategy and our modal plans. We've got the LGIP. We do a lot of area and corridor studies, as a lot of you know. We bring you along and get input from you as part of those studies. We get a lot of council feedback, a lot of community feedback that we take on board. And we've also, very lucky now, in the modern age, we've got a lot of data. So we get a lot of data insights that help us generate a lot of these projects. So just setting the context, suburbs. So today we're talking about all the suburbs to the north of the Coomera River. So we've got Yatala and Stapleton Enterprise area at the top of the city, a significant job generator. It is an area that has got a lot of growth potential, and it is an area that you'll see through the presentation we have a large focus on. We've also got Ormeau, Pimpama, Coomera and Upper Coomera, which are significantly high growth areas in terms of residential. We do have some acreage communities there at Ormeau Hills and Kingsholm. We have some agricultural areas at Alberton, Woolgoolba and Norwell, and we've got the Bayside villages at Jacobs Well and Steiglitz or Cabbage Point. So you can see there with the images there, we've got Yatala Enterprise area and the Coomera Town Centre, which is the principal activity centre for the Northern Gold Coast. So in the Northern Gold Coast, the population has doubled over the last decade. So that's one significant fact. If you just look at Pimpama as a suburb, over the last 8 years, population has gone from 9,000 to 24,000 people. So that is massive growth in that part of the city. So here's a bit of a snapshot. The area has 120,000 people at present, which would be larger than most local governments, I suppose, in Victoria and New South Wales. So it is a large area in terms of population. 17% of the Gold Coast population currently live there. It's got 40,000 jobs, of which half are industrial jobs. And moving forward in terms of ultimate, we've got 200,000 people living there, with a large proportion of those jobs being industrial. In terms of transport, there is the Brisbane to Gold Coast passenger rail line, with currently 2 stations, one at Ormeau and one at Coomera, which are very well used, predominantly for people who live in the area and commute to Brisbane to work. We've also got the Pacific Motorway, or as you know it, the M1, and along the M1 we have a suite of interchanges that are really leading to traffic congestion on our local roads. So TMR do have a suite of investment packages. Some are currently happening, some are in the planning, and I'll talk about them later. But it's those interchanges which is predominantly driving the congestion, traffic congestion in the Northern Gold Coast. I'll start on public transport. So the state are building a new train station at Pimpama. It's currently under construction. It's really going to add a lot of vibrancy to that area. It's really going to create a town centre or a mini town centre at Pimpama, and we're already starting to get development applications in that area with a higher density because of the train station. So that will be an excellent community facility. That's looking at opening sometime at the end of the year, I think early next year. Northern Gold Coast Bus Service Improvement Initiative. So I'm only going to touch on this. This is going to be subject to an agenda item report next year. But if you cast your mind back a few years ago, Council resolved that we would enter into a partnership, a $16 million partnership with TransLink to uplift bus services in the Northern Gold Coast. So before this initiative started, there were a lot of communities there that were getting a 2-hourly bus service. We all know a 2-hourly bus service doesn't really cut the mustard for a high growth area. So we've gone into partnership with TransLink. Stage 1 commenced in February 23, Stage 2 commenced July 23, and Stage 3 is starting in September, where we've uplifted the frequency of a lot of existing services. We've expanded the hours of operation, so they start earlier in the morning, go to later at night, and we've introduced 3 new services. As part of Stage 3, we've got a new bus service that will link Jacobs Well to the new Pimpama station that will open towards the end of the year. That initiative is going very, very well, and TransLink have indicated to us that they're using us as a really good example that they want to advocate other local governments, such as Logan, Ipswich and Sunshine Coast, other high-growth urban local governments, to look at investing in public transport moving forward. So they're very happy with the way that's working. So obviously it's only 4 years for us. Once the 4 years is finished, our investment stops, and I'll assume that TMR will continue with that. Now, as part of the Northern Gold Coast Bus Service Improvement Initiative, we've also had to put in a whole heap of new bus stops. There's some photos there. We've put in 54 as part of Stage 2 and 46 as part of Stage 3. And they're all done now. They're all ready to go. Active transport. So in terms of active transport in the Northern Gold Coast, this financial year our focus is on 3 schools: Ormeau Woods State High School, Highland Reserve State School and Coomera Springs State School. And what we're doing is we're doing audits around those schools. We're partnering with our active school travel team and looking for gaps in the network. And instead of doing gaps as a single project, we're grouping them up into a package. The works we're doing at Ormeau Woods State School is the first one of that. You can see it's a $1.5 million investment. It would be about 12 projects in that. They're small projects, we're packaging them up. We can get good economies of scale and we can get them delivered really well. And the feedback we're getting from the community is that they're really well received. High schools in particular, we need to get more of the students walking and cycling to school. So that's part of our focus right across the city, and you'll see as part of future presentations, we're doing that with other schools as well. So shared paths, so 24-25, we've got 5 shared path projects, Foxwell Road, a couple of projects there in the Bloom Estate, Sandhurst Crescent up at Coomera, Old Coach Road up at Coomera, and Yawn Creek, which is a small little green bridge that sort of links 2 communities. So you'll see as part of our 4 and 10-year program moving forward, we will have more shared paths rolled out across the community. We've also established a new program called a Minor Works program, and that's where we can get in and do small jobs quite quickly and easily. Some of these jobs don't really need a lot of design, and we can get in and get some really good outcomes for the community. So for the Northern Gold Coast, we've got those projects there spread across that area. You know, they're short little sort of 50-metre lengths, or some curb ramps, or an island cut through, and those projects are very well received by the community as well. Initiative we are doing right across the city, and we've started this in the north, is our active transport network planning. So we are mapping all our active transport network across the city. We're also mapping all our gaps, and then we're identifying those gaps. So for the Northern Gold Coast, we've identified 163 candidate projects that total about 149 million. Across the city, we've got about 650 of these candidate projects. So we all know we can't deliver all those projects all at once. So we've come up with a prioritisation tool that we use, and we will message exactly what those prioritisation criteria is as part of a separate report. But as you can see, we have identified 14 high priority projects that we want to invest in the next few years across the north. We've also got some larger, more strategic thinking going on. So one of the key messages we got from the community when we did the consultation as part of the transport strategy back in 22 was that the M1 is very much a barrier for a lot of people. So this is a really good example where we've got a suburb, Ormeau, and the M1 goes through the middle of the suburb. So we've basically got Ormeau East and Ormeau West. We've got a very large high school over in the east. You've got a population of residents that live on the other side of the M1, and the only way they can get their children to school is drive. So this is an idea of a green bridge where you can link that community. It will actually only be a 10-minute walk for those residents to get to the high school, but it does require a significant structure over the M1. So these are the type of initiatives that we need to advocate for and leverage grants that come along, advocate to the federal and state governments to get these sort of initiatives happening. And there's a whole suite of these all the way down the M1 from north to south. This is an example of another green bridge we're doing. We're currently doing a business case for this, and it looks like it is going to be feasible, and it's something that we'll put into the CapEx budget as part of the 25-26 budget build. And what this essentially does is you've got some schools to the north, Livingstone College, and you've got population to the south, you've got a railway station to the south. This will provide a shortcut link for those people who want to walk and cycle to the railway station or to the schools. So road network, this is where where you put the meat on the bones. So I've deliberately made the presentation to go from the north to the south. It just makes sense. But we'll start with the state. So the state have committed significant funds investing into the north. The biggest one at the moment is the Coomera Connector Stage 1. So that's a 6-lane road, grade separated road, arterial road, that will be running from Coomera to Nerang. So the issue we've got at the moment, there is only one way to cross the Coomera River, and that's the M1. And the busiest road we have in Queensland is the section of the M1 from the Coomera exit 54 through to the Smith Street motorway. It currently carries over 200,000 vehicles per day. And we all know when there's an incident on the M1, not only does the M1 become choked, but all the surrounding roads become choked. So the objective of the Coomera Connector is to take those trips that are travelling from the northern suburbs to a southern suburb, take them off the M1, let the M1 do what it's supposed to do, and that is take inner city trips or interstate trips and get that suburban traffic onto an arterial road. So that's being constructed. That will be fully open by 2028. TMR are also currently upgrading exit 49. Construction's underway of that. That project's going very well, and that's very much needed for particularly that Pimpamar community. The interchange there was very much under capacity. We had traffic banking back onto the M1 for quite a distance, which, as you'd appreciate, is quite unsafe for those motorists on the M1. They've also recently upgraded exit 41. That provides a really good access now into the Yatala Stapleton Enterprise area. It allows those larger heavy vehicles to get in and out of that area. And you'll see in the future slide now, we are doing our link roads into that project. TMR recently also did a sort of a part upgrade of exit 45, and they've also got some funding set aside this financial year to signalise the intersection of Tamborine Oxford Road and Charlie's Crossing Road. And that's a diagram of exit 49, which is currently under construction. This is a good example of exit 41. So you can see there on the left, we basically had the big large roundabouts there that became congested. We had 2 lanes across the M1, and what they've done is they've separated the on and off ramps, they've separated those right turn movements, they've put an extra structure over the M1 that now provides significant uplifting capacity into and out of Yatala. This is just a diagram showing Coomera Connector Stage 1 and some of the construction that's happening on that at the moment. And we have a very large interface with the Coomera Connector Stage 1. I'll provide further information on that as part of future presentations, because it really is affecting the central north and central south areas.
Sorry to stop you there, Nick, but has there been any modelling about the impact that the Coomera Connector's first stage is going to have on worsening the congestion on Foxwell Road?
Yeah, so you asked the question at the very right time. We do know that the northern portal of the Coomera Connector, Stage 1, is basically going to be a vacuum for traffic in that area. So if you live, say, at Pimpamar or northern Coomera, the only way to get to that is to filter through local streets. So there are some local streets that, until the future stages of the Coomera Connector are built, there are some local streets where there will be some additional traffic. So when I hit the slide here, you'll see the the blue line there, which we believe firmly should be the next stage of the Coomera Connector, and that's getting it up to Ualpa Road. That will then alleviate all that running through all the local streets, because the people who live at Pimpamar and those suburbs no longer have to filter through the local streets. They can go to the interchange at the end of Ualpa Road.
Yeah, my concern is the people that live at Coomera Waters, who have one way in and one way out, and they drive out of their homes into a traffic jam daily.
Yep.
My personal assistant lives at Coomera Waters, and some days it takes her an hour to get from her home to my office at Upper Coomera. So just getting across the M1 is nigh impossible. I wrote to 2 ministers of the government in the lead up to the election in January or February, asking for them to consider a red light camera where Foxwell Road meets the M1, just near the ambulance station there, and I think it's called Waterway Drive there. Oh, no, that's the Marine Precinct. Can't remember what it's called. But I haven't even had a response. And I think it's shameful that, because the traffic just blocks the whole intersection and then no one goes anywhere in any direction. And if they put a camera in, no one would block the intersection, but they didn't even dignify me with a response to my correspondence. So go figure. There's no short-term fix for the problems out there, and there's not even a long-term fix at this point in time.
Through the chair, I think one of the things, Councillor Gates, that we need to, I guess, collaborate more effectively with DTMR will be there's operational issues right now where we've got challenges with traffic congestion. We've got this medium-term 10-year where we can start to see what projects have or have not been invested, and then there's a myriad of projects where we need to engage at a strategic level and potentially, I guess, through some good advocacy from politically and some great transport planning work and collaboration, make a very clear, evidence-based, benefits-based approach to state to invest in some of these linkages. So one of the opportunities for us to assist some of these conversations, I think, will be having better transport planning being able to demonstrate, even if there is some investment, for us to do some of that front end planning and conceptual design on the benefits, not only to the DTMR network but to the broader city network. There are projects in our 10-year program that really have dependencies on interchange upgrades or DTMR upgrades. So we need to be very clear on those, and I think we need to, obviously, I can't defend you not getting a response, but I think more broadly, part of this strategy will be that we can give you a very clear, evidence-based strategy, prioritised investments for the state network, the local network, where are we focusing on every one of these 5 regions, and share that information with you so that we can take
Yeah, just to be clear, I didn't write to DTMR. I wrote to the Police Minister and also to the Transport Minister. And one would think at a political level at this stage, they'd have an interest in at least acknowledging receipt, but nothing's been received. And quite clearly, our officers of the city totally understand the problem. I think the mayoral minute that was presented last year helped with some discussions with DTMR, and I had some feedback that there was agreement about an additional east-west interchange between 49 and 54. One would hope that that might get some legs in the run up to the state election in October. But I do appreciate the work that Nick and his team are doing, because I know that they recognise the issues we're facing. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Yates. Some of those, your representations are featured in the slide here. The state have also recently completed some planning and business case for some projects. M1 Exit 38 they've completed, and that's a significant project that would, again, unlock or mitigate significant congestion that's happening in that northern Yatala area. Traffic does bank up onto the M1, particularly in the mornings for that interchange. It's also very important if we want to expand the Yatala Stapleton enterprise area, that interchange is upgraded. It's well overdue. Coomera Connector future stages, so from Loganholme to Coomera, they've recently completed a business case for that, and obviously it will then now be put to Infrastructure Australia and put it on the infrastructure pipeline. They've recently completed the business case for 4-laning Stapleton Jacobswell Road, and I see in their Q trip that they have some funding to commence in 25-26 the business case for a full upgrade of M1 Exit 45 North. So there's some images there. Coomera Connector future stages. It's the last piece of the Coomera Connector. So to get the full benefits of the Coomera Connector, it needs to be fully constructed through to Loganholme, where it links in with the Logan motorway. It links over to Mount Cotton Road as well as the M1. And that's when you're going to get the full benefit of the Coomera Connector all the way through the north. There's some images there of what some of the interchanges will look like. You can see the image at the bottom there. That's the interchange on Foxwell Road. The top one is the Spaghetti interchange there on the M1 Logan motorway, and then the other one is the interchange at the end of Uapa Road, which, yeah, that's not the technical term for it. It is obviously what they call a systems interchange, where it will be free flowing in all directions. So you can go from the Logan motorway through to Coomera Connector. Any movement you want to do, it's free flowing. You don't have to stop at signals or anything like that. So it is a significantly large systems interchange. So we'll start at the north, Yatala Stapleton. So you can see the blue there, the 4 state projects that I've just talked about. Stanmore Road. So Stanmore Road is a significant road for freight movements. We've progressively upgraded Stanmore Road over the last 8 years. We've upgraded to urban standard and 4-laned it. It's heavily used by B-doubles, and it does provide a link over to Logan. So we've got 2 stages to go. We've got stage 5, where we're trying to address some issues around a curve there. and that's in our CapEx program to undertake 2026. And then longer term, we're talking about a new bridge over the Albert River that will link to the State Road to provide that some flood immunity for Stanmore Road. Pearson Road, that's an industrial collector. We're progressively upgrading that. We've done 2 stages. We've got stage 3 in our program for delivery next year. Eastern Service Road, so that's our link road into exit 41 that we've got programmed to construct next year. We've got Stanmore Road, Ellerslie Road, where we've got programmed to upgrade that that intersection in next year as well. No, it's to 41. Yeah, it's an upgrade. It's including some at the intersection there at the Eastern Service Road and Burnside Road. Yeah, Christensen Road extension. So that's a new crossing of Sandy Creek. We're currently doing a business case for that, and that will provide an alternative route in and out of that area. Peachy Road. So where you see EDA there, that's an external delivery agreement that the council approved last year that we're currently negotiating with the developer of the Empire Estate to get Peachy Road upgraded. Quinshill Road is we're negotiating an external delivery agreement with Visy, who are putting in a new bottle recycling factory there. They've been conditioned to do their frontage works. We're asking them to upgrade the whole road. That has a benefit for us because that's where the ARC facility is located. We're also negotiating an external delivery agreement with another developer, Logistics, to upgrade Burnside Road. There's a couple of bends in there that we need to straighten out to get B-doubles in. We're currently doing the planning to upgrade the rest of Burnside Road. So Burnside Road is a pretty significant road in that Stapleton area, and it'll eventually lead into an interchange there on the Coomera Connector. And Sandy Creek Road also form part of our freight network enhancement schedule that the council approved in May 2022. Moving down to Ormeau. So these 2 projects have recently been done. So we've signalised essentially 2 T intersections. We've got a lot of T intersections across the city that through population growth, through traffic growth, it's now starting to become very difficult for motorists to turn right. So we've got a whole program that we've now put together, and it's not just for the north, it's for the whole city, where we'll signalise those intersections, and that allows people to turn right during peak hours. We're getting a lot of crashes at those intersections. The next one is intersection of Large Road, Goldmine Road. So we've got that starting construction in September. We've had to do some property acquisition for that. That's sort of held that project up. So that's another T intersection. We're currently got an agreement. We're developing an external delivery agreement with the Department of Transport and Main Roads to upgrade Goldmine Road. So the Department of Transport and Main Roads are actually putting in a large train or rail stabling and manufacturing facility, as you can see in the blue, with their access via Goldmine Road. So they have to install a signalised intersection on Goldmine Road. We had Goldmine Road upgrade in our program for 2028-29. It's an opportunity for us to bring that forward, and TMR are going to do those works as part of their works. So it all makes sense, and hopefully we can get some economies of scale through that. We've also got in the program Creek Street, Redmond Road, where we'll need to signalise, and obviously another Tilly Rowan Road, which is currently a rural road, sort of standard road on the other side of the M1. We're doing a planning study to look at upgrading that whole road, but we know we have to get in and signalise Tilly Rowan Road, Ormeau Ridge Road, just to address some safety issues there. And Eggersdorf Road. So we've actually pushed that out a little bit in the program because this one to upgrade this bit of road, we really rely on Department of Transport and Main Roads to upgrade exit 45. It would be an overinvestment for us to upgrade Eggersdorf Road before TMR commit to exit 45. So we've got it indicatively in the program for 2029, and that's four-laning that bit of road. Pimpama. So we're currently upgrading Uapa Road. You can see the fantastic drone shot there of the construction that's happening. That's I think it's about a $55 million upgrade. So we're four-laning that road. It's going to be fantastic when it's finished. That includes a new bridge over the rail line. We're signalising the intersection of Pimpama, Jacobswell Road, Wharf Road. You may recall the petition we had for that back in 2021. We've got a significant safety problem there with a lot of heavy vehicles that run along Pimpama, Jacobswell Road. There's currently no right turn, and we've got a 900-metre queue there in the AM and PM peak for school traffic. So Council resolved back in 2021 to signalise an intersection. That's what the other agenda item was about, was to purchase land to facilitate that project. Old Pacific Highway, Mebane Street, so we're signalising that intersection. That is got an interface with the new Pimpama station. That's happening 2025. And Pimpama West Service Road, we're currently doing the design of that. That's a new road that will link Pimpama through to Ormo in the north, and it will provide an alternative link for those residents who currently have to use the M1 to do a local trip. So that's in the program for 2027. And we're also looking at this whole, what we call the Pimpama Town Centre Delta, which is all the roads around the Pimpama Town Centre. It makes sense that we upgrade them now. A lot of them have a rural configuration. It's difficult for people to cross the road. People get out side streets, and we've got the Pimpama station happening. So it's about getting in there and upgrading all those roads from a safety capacity and just a configuration perspective. That will be a $30 million investment that's in the program out in around about 28, 29. Coomera. So this goes back to what Councillor Gates outlined before. A lot of the traffic congestion in the Coomera area is actually driven from M1 exit 54. So you can see there with the diagrams that TMR did upgrade that interchange back in 2016, but it's still under capacity just through the sheer growth in traffic in the area. What you've also got to remember that exit 54 is the only east-west route through the area. So if you live at Coomera Waters and you need to get over to Councillor Gates's office at Coomera, the only way to do that is through the interchange. So all those east-west movements, and this happens all the way through the city, it happens down at Robina as well, the east-west movements suck up a lot of the capacity of the interchange. So what we need all the way down the M1 is some overpasses, underpasses to get that east-west traffic out of the interchange to allow the interchange to do its job. But you can see the diagram there on the right. That's what we call a typical traffic for a Thursday morning. It's got a 2-kilometre queue on Foxwell Road getting onto the M1. So that's where all that traffic is getting driven from, and we desperately need additional interchange in that area. So you can see we do have a master plan. There was a master plan developed for the Coomera Town Centre back in 2008. The diagram on the left, so you might hear us talking about Road Bs and Road Gs. That's what we refer to there. And the diagram on the right shows the Coomera Town Centre, but in particular the bit in yellow is currently a residential area that will be happening over the next a few years. There's a significant population in that area. Correct. So road B goes through that estate.
That's what is currently vegetated in that left-hand side.
Right-hand side. All that vegetation is the land that Bob L has acquired.
Bob L.
To build 4,000 homes.
And is that signed off or not signed off yet?
The federal government was still looking at the EPBC requirements.
Because of the koala veg? Cool. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
So as part of that development approval from council, they have to construct Road A, Road B and some of Road G to develop their estate. So in 2006, TMR did some planning along here, and what it involved was exit 54 upgrade, so that's been done. It also involved a southern interchange at Biddy Road, and it also involved a northern interchange between 49 and 54. So we are currently working with TMR and doing a study to work out what's the best way forward and how we're going to address traffic congestion in the Coomera area, Upper Coomera area. There really does, as mentioned before, that northern interchange needs to be looked at closely, and also some additional M1 crossings and our local link roads. So we both need to do this in partnership. Just an example, that's Road G, so that's currently in our LGIP. That's an overpass of the M1, and that links Upper Coomera with the Coomera Town Centre, and hopefully that will get a lot of that east-west traffic out of the interchange. It will also help bus services and pedestrians and cyclists to get to the town centre as well. So the state are currently building the Coomera Hospital, and the Coomera Hospital is a very large hospital. It's going to be eventually be 1,000 beds. It'll be a very large hospital that, unfortunately, the state have yet to finalise how they're going to get access to the hospital. We're currently working with them to try to facilitate their access. We do have some money in our CapEx budget that was approved to facilitate the southern section there, George Alexander Way. Hopefully we can get that constructed, but the rest, so Road B there, the state wanted the city to build Road B. We said, no, it'd be difficult for us to justify investment in that road if it's just providing access to the hospital. If it's just going to become a driveway to your hospital, that needs to be funded as part of the hospital. But as you can see, Road B eventually goes up to the north and it links into that northern interchange. So if the state commit to a northern interchange, it gives leverage for Road B to be constructed to provide access to a very large hospital. That hospital, as I said, it's going to be the hub of the community for the north. At the moment, they don't have a hospital. So it's a significant community facility that we hope we can work with the state to get really good access outcomes.
Yeah, go through.
Do people who live in Coomera go to Gold Coast University Hospital, or is there a hospital in Logan they go to?
Yep.
Gold Coast University Hospital. Okay.
Yep.
I just didn't. I'm not familiar with the area. So.
Yeah, they go down. They go down to Park.
So they're currently driving south in order to get to the hospital, and
correct.
Yeah.
Councillor Gates, did you want?
If you don't mind, can we just go back to the last slide, please? I get the point about Road B, but what work are we doing as a city in regard to getting people to that point where Road B will kick in? Because they're still 2 kilometres back down the road waiting to get to the interchange. So even if Road B were built tomorrow, you'd still have a 2 kilometre pile up along Foxwell Road, and I'm just so fearful of what happens once the Coomera Connector dumps there as well. So are we working in that space? I know the state's taken control of Foxwell Road up to Shipper Drive, but are our officers aware of any work that's happening to divert the traffic anywhere off Foxwell Road?
Well, obviously, the Coomera Connector, but they're building a Coomera Connector Stage 1 to get traffic out of exit 54.
If they're heading south, yeah.
Yeah, so majority of traffic is heading south. You can see by that diagram, that's where the traffic congestion is. That's what the objective of Stage 1 of the Coomera Connector is. But in terms of Road B, I don't think it would be prudent of council to invest in Road B until the state make a commitment to building a northern interchange.
Okay.
Because
I get that.
Road B is a significant investment, and we don't want it to be a road to nowhere. We want it to be a road to an interchange. So that will also share the traffic load with exit 54 and provide a really good access into such a large hospital.
So do we have the figures on what is possible potentially with the Coomera Connector once it opens, in what percentage of traffic is heading south?
Yeah, we've got that data.
Can you?
I can't tell you what it is, but
Oh, you can't. Okay. Thanks.
another thing we're working on is what we call the CHIC, or the Coomera Home Ideas Centre. As you can see, there's a new Costco there that's been open about a year. It's a significant traffic generator, and there's really only one way in and one way out of that development. So we're also working with a developer of the Coomera Home Ideas Centre to get a link over, I think it's Oyster Creek, to Creek Road, to provide a relief valve, particularly for the town centre and Costco. So that's an external delivery agreement. So Foxwell Road upgrade strategy. So as you can see by that diagram there, you've got Foxwell Road. The red's 6, the blue is 4, the purple is 2. You can see the orange there, so that is now a state road. So as part of our investment in the short term is that we're going to be signalising 3 intersections to address the safety issues. So we've already signalised Amity Road there, that's shown there in the photo. Next year we'll be signalising Learning Street, and the year after we'll be signalising Henry Street. But this shows the ultimate. So you can see the Coomera Connector, when it extends through, there will be an interchange on Foxwell Road. That's what it looks like. It's at Amity. So Foxwell Road actually goes over the top of the Coomera Connector there. So you would expect that that bit of Foxwell Road will become a state road in the future. So what we're saying is, when an investment decision is made to extend the Coomera Connector, that will also include 4-laning Foxwell Road through to that interchange, and that so that's why we have to address safety issues, but we have to be careful not to overinvest in our road network because of some of the forward planning that's happening. So,
all of that blue.
Yep.
Is there a 10-year window?
They've done the business case. I think it's going to be, Councillor Hamill will probably know that to get it through some of that area, it's a conservation area, the koala area, but it's also it's a flood area. So to get the Coomera Connector through that northern area, it's going to be quite a expensive exercise for that to happen. So couldn't tell you a timing. And Beatty Road, so we've got quite a few projects in a capital program in our LGIP to upgrade some of the intersections on Beatty Road. You can see 2 there that we reported to council back in February that were well overdue for traffic signals. We've fast-tracked those, and we'll be starting construction on those hopefully early next year. We've also got a longer-term plan. So if you cast your mind back about the southern interchange, I don't think the southern interchange is going to work. I don't think you can get on and off ramps to work there. It's too close to the Coomera River Bridge. But there is an opportunity, and which needs to be further explored, is another overpass. So it goes about all those ladders all the way down the M1 that I talked about, and that will be form part of our transport strategy moving forward. And nearly finished. We get to Upper Coomera. You can see that there's 4 intersections there that we've recently upgraded in terms of safety and capacity. And we've got 2 more initiatives. We've got the intersection of Old Coach Road and Reserve Road. That's in the program. It's not short term, it's in the medium term, but that is to realign Bally's Mountain Road and make a 4-way signalised intersection there. And the last initiative is Highland Drive Extension, which is extending Highland Drive through to the state road there to provide another way in and out of that community.
So 2032, west side.
Yep.
And nothing really in the foreseeable future east side, because we're waiting on the state. It really isn't acceptable. I don't know what we do about it, but it's totally unacceptable that we've identified this area for growth, and the people out there, people are moving away. and I know that you know, Nick. It's just terrible that there's been no consolidated planning to provide the infrastructure after all the infrastructure charges that have been raised in that area by new residents and the rates that they pay, and there's nothing. Like, I appreciate that there's lots of signals going in along Foxville Road, but the community won't like it. It just stops them more, and they're already delayed. I just can't understand how we could get to this point in time with the projections provided at Community Services this week, with Division 3 having the highest population in all of the city in the coming years, and here we are still with a perhaps 20-year time frame to resolve the traffic congestion. It's not as if the Coomera Town Centre is a surprise. It was first identified in the 70s for urban growth.
Oh, look,
So,
I think
I'm sorry, I know it's not a question,
No,
it's a rant.
I think it's something that I think the team is really identifying these challenges. I think we all understand what it is, and where we're all needing better outcome from state government to help us drive our network out. Part of our challenge is, when are they going to be delivering their major networks, and then what is the impact on our networks off it, and we're dealing with those impacts at this particular stage. The other concern will always be is when they do introduce a network to the city, what is the real impact of it, and how quick we can enablise some of these projects that we are affected. So I think we all take on board that we need better outcomes at state level for a growing city. We can see the impacts right now. We don't have to see 10 years ahead, and I think this is identifying it, and we need to keep that advocacy going and keep pushing the boundaries for state government to improve. Do we have any more questions from the floor? I do have a couple of questions. Just, you mentioned early on about small projects that you're able to just roll out instead of going through detail. What type of projects do they look like? We all have them in our community where we're trying to get small projects, but we know how much time and effort and cost to roll them out. What type of projects are they that you look at to roll out some of the smaller projects that we did see in the north?
Through the chair, that they're active transport projects. So small lengths of path, 20 metres, curb ramps, cut-throughs. But they've got to be projects that can readily be delivered without a lot of design effort, okay? Because you've got to remember that they've got to be clear of services, driveways, So they're, we've got one at Pimpamar State College, which is a really easy project to do. It's, how long would it be? 50 metres. Doesn't need any design. We can get in there and box it out and get it done.
So no driveways, no services.
No, it's basically at the end of a cul-de-sac that sort of links out to a existing school crossing. It sort of just makes sense. And we can get in there and get them done quite quickly without a lot of design effort, without having to wait for Energex or Telstra to come along. They're not complex projects.
If we go back, I know it's at the very beginning of the stage, but we're going to talk about, I think there was 5 regions that we put as this transport network reports that you're doing at the moment, and I think it was 5 stages. Could we just give an overview of, because we can see how detailed it is in one area, could you just exactly give a detail of each of the 5 regions, what areas they cover, just so that each of the councils get an idea?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you can go back.
So the next one will be Central South, which is in essence the section of the Gold Coast south of the Nerang River, but really primarily around the Robina, Varsity Lakes, sort of Mermaid Waters, Miami ribbon there. That's the next one. So primarily we've got 2 traffic congestion hotspots in the city, one at Coomera and the other one at Robina. So we will have a similar presentation about everything that's happening at Robina, and we've got very similar problems where we really have to work with the state to get the outcomes we want. The north, central north, that will run from Pacific Pines, Helensvale, Runaway Bay, all the way through to that area, including Surface and Broadbeach, all that sort of area there. We could split that into probably two if we really wanted to. Then obviously the south and the west, they're pretty obvious. We've got south of Tallabudget Creek through to the border, and then to the west of the M1.
Thank you, Nick. I did ask with Michael whether we could do a workshop. I know there's a lot of questions we have from the floor, and we know our areas very well, and I know there'll be a lot of questions when we get to our areas. So I had requested if we can have a workshop just to talk through all the 5 regions. Each person then can ask questions that relate to their particular area. We've highlighted with Councillor Gates today Coomera Waters and what effect some of these areas are. So it's just...
There really isn't any point in having... The officers know the problems, we know the problems.
But we've got other councillors here that are new councillors, I think would help to get an insight from a local councillor of their concerns. It would also give a light for our office to understand if there are other challenges that are out there, and also understand how the challenges that the officers have internally and how we can assist them to hopefully get the right outcome. So again, it's something I'd like to open to all councillors to come along, and we can talk about each of the areas. I appreciate the frustration. I think we're all frustrated to see the road network where it is now, but I think it's important that this body work is being done. I think it's important that all councillors are aware of the challenges of each areas, and not only just the challenges, the interaction between the TMR and our team and what that looks like rolling out. So it's a frustrating space to be in, but it's something that we do need to be working really hard, because the city's not getting any smaller. So,
prioritise, this against Green Heart or a whole bunch of other nice baubles.
perfect. Councillor Hamill?
Mr. Chair, I had a question. So, on a lot of the projects, there were future dates allocated, and I was just looking for a bit more of an idea that all these projects need to go through the new P3M process. So is it kind of that things that are up there as delivery 24, 25, maybe 25, 26 are pretty locked in, and then it's the 27, 28, 29s and beyond that through the P3M process might change the priority on some of those? Is that accurate?
Correct.
Yep. And Mr. Chair, I had a comment as well that I agree with everything you said about why there might be some use in other councillors understanding what's happening in different areas, because where this piece of work is very much about the current pipeline of projects. The other big thing that is going to affect this in the next few years is a new planning scheme that, with a new infrastructure strategy and a new transport strategy in behind it, informing part of it, that will also affect the priority of projects across the entire city, and maybe a greater understanding of everyone outside of their own patch might help with that, of why possibly in a few years' time you may hear this project is now coming forward and it's attached to the planning scheme.
Yeah, and I think that's what we want to try and understand, that the projects, we all get frustration when we see a project, and why is it not escalated where it should be, or why are we pulling projects back? And I think it's really important that we do. There's obviously changes. City plan could be a reason we change, but also I think the gate system is really going to hopefully improve that understanding of where projects are as we move forward. So it'll be a good talking point in that space.
Through the chair, to Nick mentioned about overinvestment in our network. In essence, there are some projects in the medium long-term capital program which you would not proceed with unless some of these state network upgrades go ahead, and it's really important that we can draw them out for you. Very important to Councillor Hamill's comments around the planning scheme, particularly the strategic aspects of the planning scheme, hand in hand with this transport planning work that we're doing. So one of the objectives, is really to obviously look at local area issues, but when we look at east-west connectors, when we look at the interchanges, when we look at what we need to do with active transport, how we can broaden some of our public transport services, the northern buses we've obviously talked about, light rail, stage 4, these are all must-dos, because when you start to look at our city network, beyond 2030 to 2040, there's a lot of red in that model, and we need to work proactively together to be really clear and articulate those priorities, because public investment is at significant pressure at state and federal. There's a massive investment program across Queensland, not just in the transport space. So how can we be very clear and articulate the risks and benefits of these projects, and hopefully, Councillor Gates, we can make sure that we target those really high priority projects and have some
look, I totally
work.
respect the work that the officers are doing. I'm just incredibly frustrated because it's been apparent for decades, and you shouldn't. No, of course.
Councillor Hamill.
Mr. Chair, so on one of the slides Nick presented was about the active transport links, the overall footpath planning. Because that's commenced in the north of the city, I've been a part of that for a couple of years of it being developed, and I was just hoping through you to Nick, if I get an idea that I know you're progressing that work through the city at the moment. When do you think you'd be coming back to this committee with the whole project completed across the entire city? I think you might have mentioned there's about 600 projects, like the full list, and then the big scary numbers, so that we can have a discussion about what level of investment we want to make in active transport moving forward.
Through the chair, we've nearly finished that piece of work. I think we've got a couple of divisions to go. Obviously, we would like to do some one-on-one brief, consultation with each individual councillor. So I would say, about 6 months to get that properly done.
Not a question, but a quick comment, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, that I would encourage my committee colleagues to have those one-on-one briefings. This has been an incredibly interesting exercise, that it's a lot more than just a desktop analysis. It's been driven that we've then done consultation with different sections of the community to say, we think this is where a footpath should go, and we think it's going to connect these. Would you use that, or how do you want to use the network? The maps, which are incredibly high quality as well, are brilliant for responding back to residents. So when you get a suggestion about building a footpath here or building a footpath there, you can provide this map back and say, well, that's actually already identified, or we're actually looking at 1-2 streets over, and that's because this is where it fits into the network. I'm really excited for that piece of work to come back and for us to have a conversation as a city about what level of investment we need to increase our active transport funding up to.
And look, I think we all get frustrated where we see sections of networks that aren't connected, and there's no larger, broader program to roll them out. So I think the body of work that we see happening here is hopefully identifying that in each of the areas. Again, it's up to us to help the officers identify areas, but I think it's a really important part of the process moving forward. Again, as I said before, we just need to walk outside and get on our roads during peak time to understand what our networks are like now, and we need to get people out of cars, and we need to get them onto active transport paths, and we also know that needs a lot of work as well. So I'll come to Councillor O'Neill first. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. Just a question with active transport network planning, and this is mainly talking about the south because that's where I know the best. And is it just about population growth? Because what I'm finding in a lot of my areas, I'm getting basically generic answers back. Well, this is not on our active, transport network plan, and may go on a 10-year plan, but probably not because it won't be prioritised. But a lot of the suburbs are changed. The demographic are changing. A lot more young families coming in. Does that form part of the data?
Through the chair, yes, it does. So our prioritisation really has nothing to do with population growth. You can see the prioritisation there that we use. So the first one is function. So like a road hierarchy, we have a function for active transport. We've got principal routes, district routes, local routes. So obviously something on a principal route is going to get a higher priority over something in a cul-de-sac. Then we've got connectivity. So is it fixing a gap in the network, such as a little bridge or a little connection here or there? Proximity to high activity land use, so school, shops. If it's a request for a footpath in a rural area, obviously something in an urban area that links to a school or shops will get a higher priority in the tool. At service level, what is there an existing path there now? Obviously, if we're looking for a new path, that will get a higher priority over than upgrading an existing, say, 1.5 metre path and a 2 metre path. And then obviously safety as well. So do we have some safety issues there with, say, people crossing roads? Is there a history of crashes and things like that? So we put all these into our prioritisation matrix, we call it, and it's come out with a prioritisation of the 650-odd candidate projects. At the end of the day, what we'll be bringing is a big, long list of prioritised projects that are properly scored, based on evidence, and then it really comes down to both the level of investment that is required to deliver those, and then our deliverable capability to go and put them on the ground.
Just to follow up, I'm sort of asking because I've got a rural residential area that connects to a fairly predominant road that has a school and connections to schools, and basically it's got no priority at all because it's rural residential, I'm assuming, but there's a lot of young families that have moved in there and they're requesting because they have to actually walk on the road and it connects to a bus stop as well. So I don't know, I was just wondering how it all works and does it get revised, regularly, that's all.
Yeah, so we'll be bringing a report to council, as Council Number said, in probably in about 6 months that will actually articulate all that criteria, prioritisation criteria, how it's weighted. It sort of makes sense once you see it. So if it does connect to a school or a bus stop, that's all part of that proximity criteria.
I think that the green bridge or connectability bridge is really important to understand where that sits in a lot of these communities. As we see, we've got a lot of rivers, canals, we've got highways,
yep,
and we've got large populations that's trying to get from one side to the other. So again, I'll be really interested at how we weight those connectability of those bridges or in the community. I know when we say green bridge, a lot of people think of the Hotter Green Bridge, but a green bridge is connecting communities together, and they can be small connects between one side of a creek or a river to the other. So,
Mr. Chair, so I like the conversation that Councillor Neal was raising around this, because it was actually from that frustration that this kicked off, that I come in, started raising all of the CRs and didn't understand the responses I was getting back. The other thing in this that has been really interesting is it's really brought on a focus of thinking about the footpath network that previously you had T&I only look at footpath and road reserve, and then lifestyle and community looking at footpaths through parks, and there was no network planning between them. And I had a really ridiculous situation where parks went and upgraded a bit of playground through a park, but still didn't make the connection into the road reserve, like 5 metres missing. That meant, pushing a pram, people in a wheelchair, it defeated the whole purpose. So this has been very beneficial that I've actually got a park upgrade happening this year at Dahlia Crescent, where because it forced all the groups to come together and think about the overall network, at the same time the playground upgrade's occurring, the footpath is going in as well, instead of coming back later on or possibly ripping something out. It's been very beneficial that way. Finally, the minor works piece came out of this, that we saw there are some sections of this. So actually on this map, 1789, which is not the very bottom left-hand corner, but the next one across, that's Bella Boulevard. That's one of the ones that's on the minor list for this year. So it's a straight run. There's no services. There's like two pram ramps to do. It's about $140,000 project. You can just go through minor work. So that one will be knocked off. It'll be able to show the community we're making progress. Then the other ones can be grouped together, which the Ormo Woods one is a great example, that was 12 separate projects that when I added them all up, we'd come out at about 2 million, but by grouping them all together and getting that economy of scale and efficiency, we've saved ourselves about $500,000. That's the other benefit from it as well. A really good piece of work it's taken a few years to come together. And again, if you haven't had a briefing yet or haven't been part of the conversations in your area, I'd get involved with them, because I think it's going to be a really important piece of work that feeds into our capital program in the future.
Thank you, Nick.
Mine a different question.
Last one, yep.
So the other question of when we're going to see something in the future is, I know we have a report coming next year on the review of the success of the public transport uplift that's occurred up here. I'm looking forward to that, because I definitely know from the community's feedback it has been a raging success. The amount of people jumping on these buses has been huge, and the behaviour change of people. Okay, I won't take my car to work. The bus now starts early enough, or the bus lines up with the train station, and I can actually use it as a genuine alternative. That's the feedback I'm getting. When are we getting a report, or when is something coming back to talk about where the next one of these is? So you made the point that we think it's a good thing, and the state have said to us, we really love this, we want to do more of it. Well, then when's the next one? Where is it? And when are we going to talk about getting on with it?
Through the chair, we propose to bring a report back about the Northern Bus next year. We've got to wait until Stage 3 starts and see the effects of that. Once we start getting the data in on that, we'll be reporting that. But it's been such a success that is likely that sort of policy initiative is going to be in our new transport strategy moving forward.
So do we have to wait until Stage 3 is commenced and we've got the finalisation of that, or do we have enough data, enough feedback and enough will to maybe get on with looking at the next one of these uplift things beforehand?
So through the chair, we do have some already existing data, passenger data, patronage data that we have. It is showing really good signs. And as I said, it is probably a really good policy initiative to move forward with.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm not suggesting making a change to a recommendation today, but would leave it with the EGM that I personally don't think we need to wait until this project is completely finished and we've got the entire data set up there. I believe there is enough data and enough feedback and enough support from state that wherever officers think the next one of these uplifts should be, and I'm not sure where it is in the city, but I'd like us to get on with it and look at the next partnership option to increase public transport somewhere else in the city.
And just for new councillors to give you an understanding, as we know, state government manages public transport. This was early in the last term that we did a 4U trial of an area that council took a 4U trial with a joint partnership with TMR to look at introducing some services in areas that we believed should be happening already. And what we're hearing so far, it's been a huge success. And I think this is, as much as, again, it should be a state issue, I think there's times we need to kickstart some of these projects. And this is a great example of how kickstarting a program can hopefully get something underway. So, Councillor Hamill.
Mr. Chair, while I very much agree that it may be state to maintain and operate in the long term, I think a decade ago when we started investing several $100 million into a light rail route, we probably blew that a part of that. It's all on the state government. We've already made the policy shift. Just think to make that point, like even with Stage 3, we're going to be $1 billion in already, no matter what happens next. The buses, like here, this was an $8 million over 4 years from council, like a drop in the ocean that has had a significant effect. There are other bus services that I definitely know, in talking with some of my colleagues, different suburbs. I know Councillor Young has always raised about Pack Pines and Nerang, that while there's non-demand service out there, was it connecting into? Like, I think in every area there are suburbs or routes that would be such low-lying fruit where we could say, let's make that a 15-minute high frequency. I think if we wait for the state government on everything in this space, we're going to be waiting forever. We've got the expertise and we've got the know-how and we've got the local input. Let's find the next bus route, the next suburb, the next set of services to invest with. And would ask through you to the EGM, are you happy to take that on notice and to bring something back? Do you want a GBI? to make it occur, or are you on board with this? Thank you.
I was just explaining to new councillors what we did and how important it is and how successful it is. And sometimes sitting back is not what we should be doing. Sometimes we need to be proactive in this space. So thank you, Councillor Hamill. Okay, I'm happy to move the item. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Nick, for the great work you've been doing and your team. Thank you very much. Seconded, Councillor Hamill. As we've heard, the city is obviously a growing city. We can see the challenges right now. The challenges, as always, TMR handle our major networks. We obviously have to deal with council roads that can be affected, and working with state and waiting for state to deliver some of their programs is always hard for us as a city, but we need to be proactive in this space. In some cases, we need to be driving it, and this is what this body of work does. So thanks to the team. If I can put it to everyone, put it to this floor. For the vote. Carry. Thank you. The final one was a closed session. We did start at 7.1, but we didn't deal with it. So, do I have a minute? Councillor Tozer, Councillor Marshall, like to talk? It was on, but we started, so we'll take the vote. Yeah, we've got a seconder, Councillor Marshall. Yep, take the vote. Carry. Thank you. Do we have any general business on the floor? No, thank you. We'll close the meeting at 2:17.